So I was wondering what educational opportunities or trainings do you think were really instrumental in bringing you to where you are today?
I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. And in the back of my mind, I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I studied computer science as an undergraduate, and I worked in technology for many years. And then I just really, there was something inside me that I needed to work with my passion, right? And I wanted to be more entrepreneurial and more on the business side and more creative. So I wanted to start my own business at that time, and I decided to go to MIT to get my MBA. And I decided to also go to Harvard and get an MPA, which is Master's in Public Administration. And that's where a lot of my, sustainable development type of work comes in. So those were the degrees and the education that has helped me get on the entrepreneurial path. However, there are many successful entrepreneurs who may or may not have those degrees. I think being an entrepreneur is more of a mindset, and courage comes from here. It's a lot of courage and a lot of risk taking and a lot of focus. So I would say that you don't necessarily need any of those advanced degrees to be an entrepreneur. Just go follow your heart, create a product that your constituents or your target customers would love, and just give them the best product and best service ever.
I see. Thank you for sharing that. So you just hit upon some of the educational opportunities aspect of it, but also some other skills that are really helpful. So for youth that you have come into contact with, do you think even educated youth then have some difficulties pursuing their dreams or going after some of the opportunities that they would like to see happen in their lives?
Yes, absolutely. I think both educated and not so well educated people would have difficulties pursuing their dreams, because a lot of times we get into a field because that just happened to be one of our first jobs, or we didn't realize, maybe we thought that we loved it, but we didn't realize that that's something we don't necessarily like. And once you're into it, it's very hard to get out of it. And we don't realize, a lot of us may be miserable, but we don't realize we're miserable. Let's say you do discover, with a lot of introspection, a lot of research, a lot of talking, a lot of doing and exploring, you discover what you want to do. But then you need to have the skill set, experience, and now I'll say education, to kind of get into that field also. Let's say you have all of those, maybe you have the tenacity to get in, but you just still have to find the right job and the right fit. And there is a lot of convincing and negotiation and relationship building with the hiring managers, that you are the right fit for that job. What I would say to educated professionals is that never lose your heart, never lose heart, and keep at it until you find the right thing that you're really passionate about doing, and go after it.
And then you mentioned it takes a lot of courage, especially for those aspiring to start their own business or starting their own thing. Can you share a little bit more on some of the challenges that you faced? It could be, I imagine, being an entrepreneur, it means, professional and personal, there are just a lot of courageous things you have to overcome.
Yes.
So can you share a little bit on what those challenges were, and if any of those challenges you think were gender specific?
Sure. So as an entrepreneur, there are a gazillion challenges, right? Challenges could be external, based on your environment. Challenges could be based on resources and finances. Challenges could be based on your skills. Challenges could be based on your current responsibilities towards your family or whoever else you are taking care of in life. And whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're experienced or inexperienced, or whether you have the resources, I mean, if you have the resources, it's a little bit easier, but still everybody faces those challenges. It's not that you get into a job and you are given direction and you kind of have to go after that goal. You have to figure everything out from scratch. You have to find your customers, you have to market to them, you have to figure out how to create a product, you have to do the supply chain, vendors, a lot, right? Um, what would I say? I mean, gender related biases, I think women face this a lot. First, I mean, one is that they have responsibility of childbearing and child rearing. So as a working mother, any kind of working mother, just being a mother is very hard, right? Whether you're working or not. Working mother, and then if you're an entrepreneur, that's even harder because you still have to cook and feed and clean and take care of your children and your household, and you have to balance that. I find that mothers are some of the most efficient people around us in terms of professional people that I've seen. Also, they're very compassionate, and I think it needs you need a lot of compassion when you are in the business world. Compassion, and the first compassion should come for yourself. Usually, we're all very tough on ourselves, especially as women. We're our own worst self-critics. It doesn't matter what the world says or not, but we're our worst self-critics. And first, love and compassion needs to come from here, and then compassion towards your customers, compassion towards the people who work with you. That's very critical. And as a mother, that whether you had it or not, that just kind of blossoms, that compassion element.
So related to that, do you think there are out of all the different knowledge sets and skill sets that are required, which ones have you found to be very crucial for your profession to be able to do all of those things?
I think those are the softer skills, and the softer skills would be figure it out attitude. You would not know everything that needs to be done or you need to know. So you will, as any professional or as any person, you just have to keep learning as you go along. Do not give up attitude. There are obstacles, problems, roadblocks every step of the way. Don't give up. Figure out a solution. If there's a problem, there has to be a solution, or maybe there's a roundabout way to go about doing it. Focus is really important because if you don't focus on the one main thing that you have to do, your energy is dissipated in so many different directions. So, with focus, one ray of light can actually cause a fire, light a fire in paper, but with no focus, there's so much light and so much heat around us, that paper can just sit around, right? So that focus is critical. And the attitude of always learning is also very important. Beyond that, you have so many skills around finance and accounting and product development and product design and customer and marketing and branding. Those are all skills that you can acquire along the way, or people you can work with who have those skills, but it's just the softer skills that I mentioned that would be very critical.
Thank you. And if you can go back and redo your educational training or preparation for launching your own business, do you think there is something you would do differently?
I would have become an entrepreneur much earlier. I would also focus more on practical training. I think a lot of times training that is given in schools is very fundamental, and it's good in terms of building blocks, but it may not be always very applicable. I think curriculums have changed over time. This is what, I don't know, 15 years ago is what I'm talking, not 15, but yeah, less, but still. But even if it's not available in school, you have to constantly learn for yourself. You have to keep doing the practical aspects of the training.
You mentioned some educational opportunities for youth in the US. But our projects that we work in sites where some of those training opportunities or educational opportunities are more difficult to find. So for our youth who are in those settings, what would you recommend, or what would be your advice?
Absolutely. I know you guys do a lot of amazing work in developing countries, a lot of sustainable development work. And some of the trainings with which the youth here is able to get might be difficult to come by, but maybe there could be a program which can be an overarching, all-encompassing program. Of course, basic literacy, basic math are very, very important. Health is very important for them to learn. These are basic life skills. And then if they become professionals or entrepreneurs, as I mentioned earlier, it's also important for them to learn how to develop a good product, and then how to go about selling it so that they can scale it to whatever scaling means for them, so that they're not just selling in their own village, right? So that she's not just making by hand, 5 pots a day and then trying to sell it. Somehow develop the whole process easier and better. Maybe help them teach collaboration. How do they collaborate with local NGOs or local similar housewives like themselves or similar youth like themselves? Marketing and branding the product, quality control, and they need to also understand basic finance and accounting. Those are important skills. And then I also am a strong proponent of teaching life skills and leadership skills. I teach that to my students, both professionals and children. When I teach them leadership and public speaking, I teach them a lot of life skills, and life skills are similar to what I said. Failure is nothing, it's just a stepping stone. Keep at it, focus, tenacity, dedication and perseverance. Don't worry about what people say about you, especially when you're coming, especially if you're a woman coming from a developing world. I mean, she has so much responsibility on her hands. Also, women are not allowed to work in a lot of those communities. There's a lot of stigma for women in those societies to work, so she has to fight against it. She just needs to make herself stronger, really strong. Courage is extremely important in a lot of things, and just go at it. Take small steps. When you take small steps, which you can achieve, you build your confidence, right? And then you're on to your next step. Never stop. You can't stop moving, and you can't stop learning and growing. And those are some of the things that they need to be they need to be taught those skills at an early age. And if they weren't taught those skills at an early age, then now there are a lot of centers who are teaching basic literacy, but sprinkle these life skills in there.
Right. And from our conversation and the different things you mentioned, these kind of life skills are even more foundational than, in some ways, than having a lot of these technical knowledge.
There's one thing that I want, and this is also part of soft skills. I have a big pet peeve when somebody calls it a failure, because there is nothing like failure. It's just another stepping stone to getting to your step. It's like that hindrance, that roadblocks, right? If you come across a roadblock, is that a failure? No, you just go slow, you figure out, and then you go up that road bump, right? Edison, it took him about 1,000 times to invent the light bulb. So somebody said, Edison, how did you, keep moving along? Because you had 1,000 failures. He said, no, I didn't have 1,000 failures. What are you talking about? It was just 1,000 different ways to go figure out how to come to that one light bulb. And everything taught me something. So when something doesn't work, a project or program or a product doesn't work for you, just learn from it and pivot quickly. And I wish I had known that a little bit earlier in my life and moved along with that faster. I know it now, but I'm happy to share it with other people so that, you can learn from a lot of our mistakes, people who have gone ahead of you.
No, that's great. I think that's a life lesson that everyone, regardless of industry, regardless of where they are, they just need to have that in mind.
Yes.
So I think you already actually shared a lot of some of these advice and tips, but do you have any other advice for young entrepreneurs who are hoping to create or start their own business or start their new line of work?
It is very important to find your passion. And people say find your passion and go after it, but that's not the only thing, because you could be passionate about dancing or art or whatever. You also have to see how you can find a sustainable way to pursue that passion. One way to finding your passion is exploring and doing. So especially if you're a young person still in high school, still in college, do a lot of internships, do different projects. Talk to a lot of grown-ups who do work in different industries. Even if you work in finance, there are about thousands of different jobs in finance. So talk to everybody. Try to ask them, what do they like about their job? What do they hate about their job? And then try to do those things if they are at all of interest to you. You need to find out these 4 things. What do you really like to do? Okay. What are you really good at doing? What do you really dislike doing? And what are you not good at doing? And then you focus on what are you really good at doing and what you really like to do, and find something around that in terms of an entrepreneurial venture or in terms of any kind of job.
Thank you. Thank you for these very practical and thoughtful responses. I think hearing from someone experienced professional who have gone through it all is, I think, the best way to learn. So thank you so much for your time and for sharing your thoughts.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.